Hey everyone, welcome to the next video. In this video, I'm going to do something special. Even though I haven't done a huge amount of pizza challenges or just a huge amount of pizza or a huge amount of challenges, period, I tend to analyze data a lot, and that means study other eaters. I'm actually an engineer by day, and I have been for 37 years. So I tend to immerse myself in the data, and that's actually something that's very fun for me to do as part of doing food challenges. And doing food challenges themselves, it's nothing different as far as immersing myself in the data. So I've only done, I believe it's four, geez, I have to go back and actually check, but four pizza challenges. And what I've learned by analyzing the data in just in my limited experience, that all pizza challenges are not created equal. And I'm actually going to use some mathematics to actually show why they're not created equal. And really, I don't think anybody's done this before. And also share with you some actual numbers. Because when you look at a pizza, and I will show you after I do this little intro and explain that a pizza is a circle. And so there is a surface area that is necessary to obviously consume in the pizza challenges. And it's going to vary by, of course, the size of the radius of the pizza. And so I'm going to share with you in this video and not only that factor, but many other factors that I've learned along the line doing food challenges, at least based on my limited experience. And we're going to bring some math into it and other experiences that I also tend to ask and probe and ask questions of other eaters that are way more experienced than me and try and correlate that data. So stay tuned. Hopefully you're going to learn something brand new, and also in the future will help you not only train but prepare for pizza challenges. And again, all pizza challenges are not created equal. Here's a list of what I'm going to cover in the video today. I'm going to put timestamps in the description for your convenience. I'm going to talk about pizza surface area and use a little math. Then I'm going to use those surface area calculations and an actual example of a pizza weight and come up with the different weights that might be typical for the different size pizzas. I'm then going to cover the impact of the different toppings and number of toppings, and then likewise the crust thickness and texture, and then last but not least, the effective time limits on a pizza challenge. So let's start off by talking about the surface area of a pizza. So surface area of any circle is through a mathematical formula, pi r squared of the radius. And pi is actually 3.1415, and it goes on for a long ways, but for simplistic sakes, we can just use 3.14. So for a 36-inch pizza, the radius is, of course, half of the circle of the 36 inches, and that's 18 inches. So if you do the math with pi approximately 3.1415 and you square 18 and multiply by 3.1415, you get 1,017.846 square inches for a 36-inch pizza. So we're going to use this formula and calculate some common size pizzas to give you the square inches. You can use this surface area computation to come up with the surface areas of common pizza sizes, including a 16-incher, which is readily available in most fast food type pizza places, where 16-incher is a very common pizza size. So we've got 201, 452, and 616, and 1018 for 16, 24, 28, and 36-inch pizzas. Now you can use that 16-inch pizza measure or computation of 201 inches squared to basically come up with the surface area, the size of the pizzas, using 16 inches to train for the other pizza challenges, for example, 24, 28, and 36. And I've computed what the equivalent for those types of or sizes of pizza in equivalent 16-inch pizzas to give you an idea of what you'd have to use to train for those other size pizza challenges. So for a 24-incher, it's approximately 2¼ 16-inch pizzas. For 28, it's computed to be three 16-inch pizzas. So a 36-incher is approximately 5 16-inch pizzas. So if you're going to be able to do a 28-inch pizza challenge by yourself, at least with surface area, you're going to have to be able to eat 3 16-inch pizzas as the baseline. Let's talk about the third item on the list, pizza weight. From what I've seen, I watch a lot of videos of eaters doing pizza challenges. Most of the time, I think the weight of the pizza is overstated just for purposes of, I guess, maybe even clickbait, and very few I've actually ever seen been weighed on camera. So I think the weights in general tend to be overestimated, especially if you look at the eating rate with some of the eaters being able to eat a 28-inch pizza with that type of surface area. And we'll talk about, I guess, crust thickness, and they're just smashing it in 10 minutes. There's just no way a pizza is going to be weighing like 15-pound pizza and having an eater, even a pro level eater, being able to smash it in about 10 minutes if it's not overstated. So what I actually did here was I put 3 pretty well average 16-inch pizzas, one topping pizzas. Good crust, wasn't thin, again, where it flops when you have the pizza, but it wasn't a thick crust pizza either. So I thought it was a good median pizza to create a baseline for what a 16-inch pizza weighs. And then we'll actually be able to use the surface area and compute approximate poundages to give you an idea when you get into again, toppings aside, we're talking about one topping cheese pizza as a sort of a baseline poundage comparison. So what I did is I actually had 3 16-inch pizzas, again, good representation for a 16-inch pizza, and I weighed all 3 of them together, and it came out to be 8 pounds. And so if you do the math, that's basically 2.7 pounds for our baseline measurement for as far as poundage goes for a one topping 16-inch pizza. So if you use the previous computations for surface area and equivalents of common pizza challenge sizes in 16 inches as a baseline, and you use that baseline weight for a 16-inch pizza, you can come up with typical weights for the different pizza challenges. And based on my limited experience, actually, I've done a 28 and 36-inch team challenge. These actually seem pretty close to my own experience and what I had capacity-wise and what it took to complete the challenge, especially since, for example, the 28-inch pizza I could have eaten by myself, and I know it did not have as thick a crust, so it was 8 pounds. And that was well within my capacity at the time when I did the team challenge with my father-in-law. So hopefully these computations and surface area and equivalents as far as poundage can help you again in your next pizza challenge should you take one on. So next on the list is, let's talk about toppings that are on pizzas. And one of the first big ones that I've run into is salt can be just an ultimate killer based on your topping choices. And obviously the meats have salt, and specifically pepperoni has a lot of salt. So again, going back to the whole sodium water balance in your body, a lot of people will get thirsty again just having a regular amount of pizza. And when you're talking about multiple pizzas now, you're going to really run into a misbalance in your body, and you're going to want to drink a ton afterwards. It's probably not going to hit you for a while. So when doing any sort of pizza challenge that has the super salty toppings, I suggest you definitely are either ready for some pain afterwards if you hit your capacity, or at least save some capacity. An obvious strategy is, of course, to just go with vegetables if you can from a choice standpoint, especially if you have a one topping pizza. Or, like I said, you can go hardcore and go in the opposite direction and make it actually harder. And spinach, for example, might even be thought of cheating by some eaters just because of how light it is. But you minimize the weight of the pizza again. Vegetables are probably the way to go, and also with respect to not having a ton of salt. So lots of toppings can also mean potential for undercooked toppings and even cold toppings, which can be nastier to eat. At least that's my opinion. I like my food hot in general. And then foundationally, common sense with respect to toppings. The more toppings you have on your pizza, the heavier the pizza is going to be and the harder it's going to be. And if you throw in the aspect of them being all meats, or you're going to have salt in big time, which can lead to flavor fatigue earlier in the challenge. And what I've learned from others is to use a drink to help offset flavor fatigue, but not necessarily too sweet, because you can actually flip, at least I've experienced this in my limited experience, flip in the other direction where it's actually way too sweet to offset the flavor fatigue. And I like Diet Coke or Coke Zero because actually Pepsi to me is sweeter than Coke. Next, I want to talk about pizza crust. Now, as far as pizza crust, back in the example I used as kind of the baseline, I used what I would call a medium crust pizza. And one of the obvious factors associated with the crust right out of the gate is going to be the actual weight of the pizza. So if you go back to my example of typical weights that I use based on the math of surface area and then the actual weight of what I would consider a medium as far as crust goes, 16-inch pizza is the baseline. Depending on the crust from that, it's going to be either north or south of those weights that I had in the example. What you're seeing here is what I would consider a thinner crust pizza, and this is why a lot of the bigger pizza challenges have this type of crust, which is why if you look at a 28-inch pizza where I believe it is about 8 pounds with a medium crust, why you can have someone just, especially a pro eater, absolutely crush it in literally minutes, because it's probably only about 7 pounds and or less. And frankly, when the crust, it's really not much of a crust, where you get what I call flop. If you were to hold the pizza and the pizza just basically flops down due to gravity because the crust is just super thin. So weight again, and the next thing, of course, would be how fast you can eat it. And as far as the crust goes, obviously, at least common sense wise, the thicker the crust, usually it's going to be harder to eat. And as part of a pizza challenge, of course, when you have a time limit, it's my belief, besides obviously you have to have the capacity to be able to eat, whether it's a team or individual challenge, besides having the capacity, you have to be able to chew fast enough, and the crust is the significant factor as far as chewing goes and how fast you can eat it. And from my standpoint, the crust itself can vary based on how it was cooked. Some of these large pizzas, they really don't have a formula like if you go to a fast food pizza joint about how long the pizza needs to cook. So if it's overcooked and chewy, it's going to, of course, affect how fast you can eat it. What we're seeing right here is what I would be considered a medium crust, by the way, after what I showed you was a thinner crust. So it's going to affect, if it's overcooked, it's going to affect your ability to chew it as well. So I know a lot of people probably won't agree with this, but I actually think that you should be eating the crust as you go with the pizza. I know there are some more famous food challengers that actually agree with this. And if you let it cool off, actually, look at pizza. When you let it cool off, it's going to be harder to eat the crust and chew. And so my take is get it going as quickly as possible. And Randy Santel actually gave me that. And one of the pizza challenges I did, he said, get started right away. And did I burn the roof of my mouth? Yeah, I couldn't feel it at the time. It's just the tissue on the roof of your mouth a little bit gets burned, but it wasn't an extreme burn or anything like that. So I like hot food anyway, so it really helped me to get started. And again, the crust is going to be easier to eat, I think. And then sticking in the marinara sauce, when you're only doing like a 30-minute time limit and you're trying to save the crust for after, normally you're not going, if you look at the crust, it's not going and what marinara and how thick it is, it's not going to really absorb much into the crust during the short time period that you're doing a pizza challenge. And what we see here is what I would consider a thicker pizza crust. Obviously, there's been some thicker ones as well, but again, a thicker crust like this is obviously going to be a lot heavier than the thin crust pizza that I showed, and it's going to be able to stand on its own. If you were to hold a pizza or a piece of the pizza out, it's not going to flop down due to gravity and be vertical when you're trying to hold the piece of pizza by the crust. So again, just a pizza crust is a huge factor, and the other, if you look at my lessons learned over time and look at when I did a 28-inch pizza challenge with my father-in-law, which was super thin, and then I went and did the team pizza challenge with Joey Przbilowicz, failed on the crust aspect and didn't realize just how big a factor it was. And also the whole surface area and how much pizza you have to eat, it's not linear again. So a 24-inch pizza to a 28 is a squared function, okay, as far as the formula goes for how much pizza you have to eat. It's not like, oh, it's only 4 inches. It's not that much bigger. So that was another piece of it as well. And I should have come out of the gate screaming eating-wise, and should have been more prepared jaw-wise to be able to chew faster. So that's about all the discussion I have on pizza crust, and let's go into the last topic. So for the last topic, it kind of sort of brings it all together. I want to talk about time limits. So I'm actually showing you the challenge I did with Joey Przbilowicz, where we ran out of time and there was a 30-minute time limit. And there's a few factors of why we failed this challenge, and we just barely failed it. One I've already alluded to. I took it for granted as far as the time involved, the time limit, and given what I had done on the Pizza Extreme Challenge, which was 28. But what I really didn't realize was how thick this crust was going to be and chewy in comparison to the Pizza Extreme pizza. And so it caught me by surprise, and which is why we actually failed. Joey kind of tapped out as far as capacity goes, but he smokes through almost half of his pizza. And really it rested on me, and there just wasn't enough time to chew. And so the whole time limit thing does come into play when you're looking at a pizza challenge. And I knew on the Pizza Extreme Challenge, I looked on a ton of videos. There was no videos to really see what the pizza was like. Now, of course, if you go back to all the computations, I have math to be able to determine without seeing previous other food challengers doing the pizza challenge to know whether I had a shot at it or whether I was trained enough and given the time limit to be able to, complete the challenge. And that's, again, was the problem with this. There's only, I think, one other video, and they had epically failed. It was actually Michael Jenkins and Nathan Figueroa. They failed big time on it. And I think part of the crust was probably a reason why, and I kind of took it as a fluke on why they had failed so poorly based on the video, in that they just kind of showed up and overlooked how tough it might be. And I should have really paid more attention to that, but I figured, we were going to be pretty well prepared and that we could fairly easily do it in 30 minutes, and I couldn't have been more than wrong. So I got the surface area wrong, and the one thing we did do right here is get the topping, which was mushrooms, definitely not pepperoni. I know Nate Figueroa and Michael Jenkins did pepperoni of all things, and we did mushrooms. And then the other thing done right here was you'll note that we're going after the crust pieces first on the outside to get the crust down while the pizza was definitely hotter, and to make it easier. So let me show you next the whole Pizza Extreme challenge that I did with my father-in-law, and talk to you a little bit about why I was successful there. We were successful there based on, again, the various factors that I've covered previously in this video. Okay, so this is my first pizza challenge, and at this point in time, I really hadn't the data that I presented here in this video to be able to know or predict whether I'd be able to complete the challenge or not. But what I did have is a ton of people had done this challenge. And so I had a whole data set of performance to be able to compare to for myself. And one of the big, I guess, comparisons was professional eaters that were able to do it in like, I swear, I think it was like 10 minutes or less. And so in comparing myself, I was thinking, okay, this thing can't weigh a lot, because I did know obviously there's correlation to weight and how long it takes you to complete a food challenge. And when they're smoking it like that and looking at the pace and how they're eating it, I had a good idea that I would be able to complete this pizza myself, actually, rather than even with a partner. I just thought it would be cool with my 88-year-old father-in-law. Anything that he was able to eat would just be gravy to be able to complete the challenge. And you'll note that there's pepperoni on this challenge pizza. And at this point in time, I really didn't have a good grasp of the whole salt thing in challenges. And so, yeah, that's why you see different one toppings. We were able to at least split it up in four. I kind of knew that definitely not all pepperoni wouldn't be a good thing from flavor fatigue standpoint. And to mix it up, you'll notice there's mushroom on there as well, and ham. Mixing it up with just would help combat flavor fatigue. And you'll know in this video, if you go back and watch on my channel, that you'll hear the lady that owns a restaurant basically say that it looked like I could do it by myself, and I was confident to be able to do that. So if you go back to the computations for a 28-inch pizza using a medium crust, I believe it's, I don't remember the exact poundage, but it's in the 7 to 8 pound range. And that's for a medium crust, one topping pizza. And this crust was a thinner crust. So if you look at it from a capacity standpoint, it probably was somewhere between 5 to 7 pounds and well within my capacity to do it by myself. So when you look at our end time, I believe it's 18 minutes and change. That also correlates pretty well. And even when you stack me up to some professional who's probably, I think, 8 minutes or so, I think someone had completed it in who's a professional. And they were pretty much going ham on it and going high speed. And you can see here I'm not going at super high speed myself. But so that's why I was very confident. And sure enough, we were victorious on this pizza challenge. Again, as I mentioned on the previous example, I still had a lot to learn, frankly, and I'm sure I'm still have a lot to learn yet when it comes to pizza challenges, just because of my limited experience. But if I would have known better, I believe it wouldn't have been one of the two losses that I have overall since doing food challenges. I thought about, Joey and I have talked about maybe going back from lessons learned at some point and going back and attempting this again for redemption. So that may be in the future as well. So anyway, that hopefully you've learned something over the course of this video, and I'm going to wrap it up here. And now that I've basically talked about time limits, and again, the time limits, one thing one last thing I want to point out, an hour time limit, just in general for a challenge, if it's within your capacity or both the team's capacity, an hour for a challenge like this is actually what I've learned, or at least I guess observed, is most people are going to tap out before they ever get to the hour time limit. And again, I'm talking about a true team challenge, or if it's within your capacity, you normally would, or I should say, if it's over your capacity for a pizza challenge. So say you do the 36-incher by yourself and it's at least a medium crust pizza, and you don't have a 13-pound capacity just for the pizza alone, let alone not having room for any liquid. You're going to end up failing. You're going to fail either if you try to go to the time limit, you're going to fail, period, with a lot left if you're still trying to go at it, or you're going to hit capacity before that. and just tap out before the time limit. So again, hopefully this helps everyone be successful in future pizza challenges. So thanks everyone for watching, and hopefully in this video, which I don't think anyone's ever done a video like this before, the very quantifiable analysis as far as pizza challenges, that all pizza challenges are not created equal, helps you either be successful in a pizza challenge in your future, or if you just are interested in doing a pizza challenge as well. So thanks everyone, and we'll see you in the next video.